Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session from Vital Nutrition, from Jane at Vital Nutrition about retirement planning. I'm Kath. I work in the wellbeing team at the Charity for Civil Servants, and I'm just going to take up a couple of moments of your time before I hand over to Jane. Just a couple of reminders about the charity, that we are this supportive community in which everyone has a chance to live their life to the full. That's what we hope to do, to create that with and for you. And we offer a whole range of things, financial assistance, and a range of services and supports to help you, of course, including this webinar as well this morning. So I think, oops, sorry, just go back one slide. Yes, this is a really important slide just to remind you that we are your charity for life. The eligibility is about being a civil servant. So if you leave or if you retire, which obviously this is what this session is about. So some of you, like myself, may be in your last years of employment. Remember, we will be here for you throughout your retirement as well. And again, anybody you know in your life who has been a civil servant, we're their charity as well. No need to give in order to get support. It's really helpful if you can. That's how we do the good work that we do, but it's not essential. There's a few housekeeping things before we get started. Please use the Q&A for any questions you have. We'll get to as many as we can at the end. The chat is disabled for this, so it's just the Q&A that you can use. There's also there is a handout for this session, which we can't make available today, but if you email me, I've put my email address in the Q&A. I can send that to you. We've also set something on the chat where you can put yourself, so if you want to ask a question anonymously, you can do that. And also closed captions are available if you need them. So to move on, just to let you know, I won't go through all these, you can see them on the screen, but we do have some very exciting further webinars from Jane over the next few weeks. The next one, which is about Feed Your Mind, is on the 12th of May at 12 o'clock. And then after that, we've got Carers Week with lots of things going on there as well. If you don't already follow us on LinkedIn, this is a QR code where you can follow us. But now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jane McClanahan from Vital Nutrition for our session today on preparing for retirement. So.
Thank you, Kath. Okay, right. Let me just get my screen and then we'll get cracking. This is the bit that's once we get this, we'll be fine. Okay. So good to be back with you all. Some of you have been to some of my sessions before, and some of you I might be a new face for. So it's really great to be doing this session. This is something that I think is really important to think about and to focus on. And perhaps when you're thinking about retirement, you're not really thinking about your habits, your routines, and the food on your plate necessarily. So we're going to think about this from lots and lots of different angles today. I'm just going to give you a really brief introduction about who I am and what I do and why I am talking to you about diet and nutrition. So I run a small business in Belfast called Vital Nutrition. And over the last year plus, I've been doing some sessions with the Charity for Civil Servants around health and well-being, really focusing on nutrition and the small changes that can make a really big difference. So I've got over 25 years experience working in workplaces across a whole range of different workplaces. I also do one-to-one consultations, and I do lots of writing and radio work as well. So I'm hoping today just to give you a snapshot and some ideas and literally food for thought about where you might go with this in relation to getting the most out of retirement, because it really is a change of rhythm, a change of routine, and a fresh start. And it's a perfect opportunity to rethink your regular routine, your regular habits, and make little changes and little adaptations that can help support your energy or your mood or your sleep or whatever it might be. So let's get cracking on this then. When we think about retirement, and I suppose the image that we have of retirement back in the olden days is that it's a time to stop and a time to slow down, when actually for many people quite the reverse is true. So it might be that you have a caring role. It might be that you go on to work in a different scenario or a different circumstance. It might be that your things like your hobbies and the things that you really enjoy doing take up more time than your working life. So it is the perfect opportunity for change. It's not a time to stop, it's a time to start. And I think that really we know that in our society we are living longer, healthier lives. So let's optimize that. Let's harness that. Let's make the most of that energy and this time in life so that you can get the most out of your retirement. I'm just going to cite a little bit of research here around healthy aging and well-being. So if any of you were listening to the Today program in Radio 4 this morning, this was very apt because I didn't catch all of it, but I caught a bit of an article that they were talking about that our health span is actually reducing. So they were saying that the years that we have, the healthy years that we have in our life is kind of going backwards. So I think we have a real opportunity to change that. And diet and lifestyle can help you to add more health to your years, more life to your years. And this is what I'm going to share with you in a minute is just a reflection of different types of diets and how they support healthy aging. And then we're going to really look at this research, look at these studies and see how we can incorporate some of these ideas into a daily routine and the food on your plate to make sure that you're making the most of your retirement. So on the right-hand side, we have got a summary from this study, which has been cited. It's also in your handout. So it gives you a little summary of what the study looked at. So they were looking at healthy eating patterns. In particular, they looked at the impact of a vegetarian diet, a Nordic diet, and a Mediterranean diet. And we're going to look at the differences and the similarities in all of these diets. They looked at the impact of limiting junk food and of maintaining a healthy body weight. And they found that when you tie these things together and you get the good habits on your plate, there was a reduced, in these societies, there was a reduced risk of chronic disease, reduced physical disabilities, improved mental health, and an improved healthy lifespan. That's what we all want, a healthy lifespan. We want to make sure that the years that we spend in retirement we're enjoying that time and we're really making the most of our well-being. So what are the common denominators and what are the differences between all of these diets? So they looked at this study looked at 3 different diets. It looked at the Mediterranean diet, plant-based or vegetarian diets, and Nordic diets. And the common denominators were things like lots of whole grains, lots of really healthy fats, berries, fermented foods like yogurt, for example, things like some lean proteins, and included some dairy products as well. The differences were the Mediterranean diet had a little bit more red meat, a little bit more red wine in the diet. The plant-based diet obviously didn't have the meat and fish there, and they had more vegetable oils and more seeds, maybe more mushrooms. And the Nordic diet had more fermented food in the plan and minimal processed food and sugars. So there's lots that we can take out of this and start to think about bringing some of these strands into your routine and onto your plate. So the first thing that we want to think about, remember that when you get into retirement, things are going to change and your routine is going to change. Your day and the structure of your day is going to change. And one of the things that will have a really positive impact is keeping structure in your day, keeping a routine in your day. And meal times, regular meal times, are a really good way to maintain that structure and maintain that rhythm throughout the day. So we know that in terms of our sleep-wake cycle, if we can get up at the same time every day and go to bed at the same time every day, it makes such a difference to how well we sleep, the quality and the quantity of our sleep. So use your sleep-wake cycle as a hook and as a part of your rhythm, and aim to eat breakfast within an hour or two of getting up. Don't skip meals. If we skip meals, then what will happen is we can become more hungry for sugars and junk food. And quite often we kind of put that back on ourselves and we think, right, well, I'm craving sugar, I'm craving crisps, I'm craving salted peanuts, whatever it might be. When actually, if we fuel ourselves better at breakfast with enough to keep us going about 4 hours, enough at lunch to keep us going 4 or 5 hours, and the same at dinner, we are less likely to crave in between. That will result in much better focus, much better concentration, and much better energy. You don't want to spend your retirement in an armchair, I am sure. So let's think about how you can get your energy up in the morning and sustained throughout the day. So keeping meal times regular and not skipping meals is absolutely central to that. Getting enough food onto your plate is absolutely central to that. And we're going to look at a few other strands that we need more of as we get older and for healthy aging. We know that compared to our younger years, when we get older, we have around twice the requirement of protein. We need protein for sustained energy. We need it for muscle health and bone health. And as we age, we have an increased risk of sarcopenia and osteopenia. So muscle loss and bone loss. We also need to prioritize protein and optimize protein on our plate for our brain health and our focus and our concentration, for things like our immune system. But every single cell in our body requires sufficient protein. One of the problems with protein is that as we get older, our stomach acid levels can decline, and that lower hydrochloric acid means that it's harder for us to break down protein. So spacing your protein throughout the day, making sure that you have got protein on your plate at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner, and maybe working on your digestion so that you're sitting at a table to eat, that you're taking time to enjoy your food, that you're letting your mouth water before you eat food. That all stimulates digestion. It means that your digestion is more efficient and more effective at breaking down protein, and you're going to make better use of those really important amino acids when your hydrochloric acid in your stomach breaks the protein down. So let's refresh where we get protein on our plate. It can be from animal sources. So we saw from those couple of diagrams, it could be things like lean meat, could be things like fish, white fish or oily fish, could be nuts and seeds, eggs, dairy products like yogurt and cottage cheese are great sources, especially your Greek yogurt. But it could equally be things like nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, tofu, edamame beans. Mixing different types of protein in our plate is a really good idea, because then we get different profiles of nutrients other than just protein. We also want to think about, in retirement, we want to think about making our food budget go further. And these days it feels like every time you go to the supermarket, we're spending more and more money on food. And protein can be one of the most expensive parts on our plate. So choosing cheaper cuts of meat and going for things that are long, slow cooked in a slow cooker or in a casserole or a curry, for example, number one, it means that it's better value. But number two, the long, slow cooking process really aids digestion, and it helps to break that protein down so it's easier for us to assimilate the amino acids and digest the amino acids. But mixing your proteins up. So I always have things like bags of peas, edamame beans, and broad beans in the bottom of the freezer, and just add those into things. So add them into your stir fries, or put things like peas and maybe some spinach into things like omelets, for example. Get creative with the protein on your plate. And you're aiming for around 25 grams of protein at each meal. You can calculate that if that's your thing, but if that's a step too far, then just make sure that when you're looking at your plate of food, around a quarter of your plate is protein. So for example, at breakfast, it might be that you have something like your Greek yogurt and a spoonful of flaxseed or hemp seed, for example, in there. It might be that you get things like eggs or tinned fish at lunchtime. And it might be that you have things like your pulses, your nuts, your seeds, your meat, your fish, your chicken at dinner. I've got some ideas at the end for menu suggestions here too. But really think about how you're getting the protein in, but also how you're digesting that protein, because as I said, that is something that changes as we age. Build a better breakfast. It might still be that on the days that you're getting up and out to work, whether you're going into work or whether you are working from home, that actually breakfast is a little bit of a rushed affair. Breakfast is an important meal of the day. Sometimes when we skip breakfast, we are getting energy from our adrenal glands and not from our plate. So let's switch it up. Let's aim to have breakfast within an hour or two of getting up, and let's make that breakfast more of a leisurely pace. By doing that, you're putting your body into your rest and digest parasympathetic mode. It means that you're going to be digesting much better. Think about what we just said about the protein, but it also means that you're going to feel possibly more satisfied by what you're eating. But perhaps this is an opportunity, perhaps retirement is an opportunity for you to change what's on your plate. So maybe you will have more time instead of rushing to your desk with something maybe like a bit of toast and something just to keep you going. Maybe you will have time to have things like frittatas or omelets. Maybe you'll have time to do things to really rethink your breakfast and shake it up a bit. It's an opportunity for change. So why not completely change what you have for breakfast? So if you're normally going out of the house with a cereal or toast, think protein first. Think about that Greek yogurt, put the nuts and seeds on it, get some berries in there. Brilliant start to your day. Maybe do things like little mini omelets, or make time and take the time to make yourself an omelette with things like the spinach and maybe the frozen peas in it, maybe things like herbs in there, maybe something like seasonal vegetables like chopped up broccoli, for example, or a little bit of leeks. And that means that you're really optimizing your nutrition first thing in the morning, but it also means it's something different to what you were doing through your working days. So build a better breakfast, get it in there, and think about the protein. Think about at least one of your 5 a day. It can also be a good time at retirement to sort of rethink the structure in your day. And maybe before you get up, not before you get up, I mean, maybe before you have breakfast, it would be impossible to do before you get up. Before you have breakfast, could you get outside? Could you get some morning daylight? Could you get into the routine of a walk before breakfast? Or could you eat your breakfast outside every morning? We've had beautiful sunshine over the last couple of days. Don't know how long it's going to last, but it's been great. So during summer months, get outside and get that morning daylight to help support a better sleep-wake cycle, help to energize you, to help get your day off to a great start. So get outside, maybe start your day with a glass of water, maybe think about a herbal tea instead of a coffee, and then get your breakfast into you. These simple things, these simple changes can really make such a difference to how well you feel in retirement, how good your structure is during the day. And as I said, meal times can start to create a little bit of a rhythm and a little bit of a routine here, but change it up. Pack in plant foods. Again, going back to the idea around healthy aging, we know that the more antioxidants we have in our diet from plant foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, and whole grains, the better the biodiversity and abundance of beneficial bacteria in our digestive tract. These plant foods contain things called polyphenols. And polyphenols are very protective for our immune system, but they also support those good bacteria right down deep within the gut microbiome. A healthy gut microbiome helps support not just our digestion, but also our brain, also our hormone balance and our immune support and our skin health. There is a connection between the gut and every other part of our body. So for healthy aging and to optimize your well-being in retirement, could you pack in an extra portion of fruit or vegetables? Could you maybe get into the habit of having something like a little fruit salad after dinner every day? Could you make sure that every single day you've got some berries in there? Berries are some of the best sources of these beautiful antioxidants called anthocyanidins. Could you switch up maybe and start drinking things like green tea? Could you start adding a drizzle of olive oil over your steamed vegetables? That will count as one of your plant foods and is a brilliant source of polyphenols, but also has been shown to help balance cholesterol levels and support a healthy brain. So where can you put more plant foods in? Think about those three diets. Think about the Nordic, the Mediterranean, and the vegetarian diet. They all have a plant dominance within them. So the Nordic diet, obviously things like your berries, maybe your cruciferous vegetables, maybe your alliums like your onions and leeks and scallions, for example. The Mediterranean diet is well known for its variety in plant foods and fruit and vegetables. And of course, the vegetarian diet has got lots of plants in there too. So maybe it's an opportunity, again, to rethink everything you've been building onto your plate. Maybe get a new recipe a week. Maybe start looking at the habits that you've got and the food that you're eating. Are you eating for enjoyment? Or are you just eating because it's quick and handy and easy? Perhaps retirement is that opportunity where you're going, right, let's think about learning a new recipe a week. Let's think about packing in more plant foods. Let's think about getting more variety onto your plate. And your plant foods can be either fresh or frozen. For herbs and spices, they can be fresh or dried. So the opportunity here for variety is vast. Fill up on fiber. So yes, of course, fiber is super important for a healthy digestive tract. And along with those polyphenols, fiber is another part of the equation when it comes to feeding the good bacteria in our gut microbiome. So thinking about the gut again, about the gut brain, for example, thinking about supporting energy. In terms of the types of fiber that we've got in our diet, we've got soluble fiber, which helps support a healthy blood sugar balance and a healthy cholesterol balance, and insoluble fiber, which helps support a healthy digestion and helps to keep us regular. We need a balance of both of these. So thinking about optimizing your energy, you need that soluble fiber for blood sugar balance. You want to make sure that you've got some fiber on every plate of food. So your soluble fiber we find through things like fruit and vegetables, whole grains like oats and milled flaxseed. We also find soluble fiber in beans and lentils. And insoluble fiber is what we would have called roughage. So it's found in the husk of nuts and seeds and the husk of whole grains. Get a combination of both so that you're supporting not just digestion, but you're also supporting blood sugar balance, reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes. You're helping support a healthy cholesterol balance, and you are feeding that gut microbiome. optimize your omegas. So in particular here, we're thinking about what we know, what we learn about healthy aging from the Mediterranean diet and from the Nordic diet. Both these diets are very rich in oily fish, and oily fish are very rich in omega-3 fats. And we know that our brain needs omega-3 fats. So we need it for the structure of our brain, but we also need it for neurotransmitters. Serotonin, which helps to keep us calm, relaxed, and grounded. And dopamine, which helps to give us our drive, our enthusiasm, and our get up and go. So get some omega-3 into your diet. Ideally through oily fish, which would be things like sardines and anchovies, mackerel, salmon, herring, and trout. We're aiming to have oily fish in our diet 2 to 3 times a week. I'm guessing that if you're thinking about retirement soon, then you need to be thinking, we're thinking around age here. So we really want to make sure that we are looking at things like cholesterol, looking at things like brain health, looking at things like cell membrane function. And your omega-3 is crucial and fundamental to all of those things. Aside from that, we also need these essential omegas for healthy skin. We need it for cell messages, in messaging in and out of our cells. So could you start adding into your trolley things like tinned, fresh or frozen omega-3 rich oily fish? Could you aim to have it 2 to 3 times a week in your diet? This might be a really good opportunity to bring things like tin sardines in. If you're listening to this and you think, I cannot stand oily fish, or you eat a plant-based vegetarian diet and it is not on your menu, then we need to think about other ways for you to get those omega-3 fats into your diet. So if you are not a fan of oily fish, then you could use an omega-3 supplement. I would really be cautious if you're on any medication, especially if you're on blood thinning medication like warfarin, heparin, for example, anything for blood pressure, because the omega-3 fats will thin the blood, and so do a lot of the blood pressure medications. So it just means that your blood pressure medication dose can be affected and your blood will not clot when you need it to clot. Your blood pressure can end up being very low. So just be really, really careful about that. If in any doubt, check with your GP or your pharmacist. But don't just go into the health food shop and buy everything that's got a shiny promise, because there will be drug nutrient interactions. So maybe the omega-3 supplement could be a great option for you, but maybe it isn't. Another way of getting these omega-3s into our diet are through chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts. These plant-based omega-3 fats are not as bioavailable to our body as what we get through oily fish. The type of fat that we find in oily fish is called EPA and DHA. It's slightly different. So we need the fats that are in the seeds and the nuts to be converted into the EPA and DHA in particular. And sometimes that can be a little bit sticky and a little bit tricky. So it is better if you've got the fish oil or oily fish, or I'm giving you lots of options, so I'm hoping this all makes sense. You can buy a vegan DHA supplement, a vegan omega-3. And it's that nice long chain DHA that you're getting. So you're missing that conversion step. You're going straight in there with the DHA. Once again, just be really careful about any drug nutrient interactions, because like the fish oil, the vegan DHA can interact with blood thinning medication. Let me just go back 1 second about the omegas as well. So the omega-3 is the most important. You may also have heard of omega-6 and omega-9. Many of us are overloaded with omega-6. And what that actually means is that we become not deficient in omega-3, but we have this imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3. And omega-3 is needed for, as I said, our brain, our cardiovascular system, and every cell in our body. It's also anti-inflammatory. So really important for things like joints, for example. Omega-6, if we have too much of it, it can become pro-inflammatory and it can upset the healthy cholesterol balance. So your balance between LDL and HDL. So we need to make sure that we're not overloading with omega-6 and that we're optimizing that omega-3. So keep your intake of things like nuts and seeds to no more than about a tablespoon a day. If your digestion is not fantastic, or if you know that you've got diverticulitis, then make sure that you eat milled seeds, finely milled seeds, or smooth nut butters, but keep your levels low. Also think about what you're cooking with. So don't cook with sunflower oil because you're adding too much onto that omega-6 load and taking away from the omega-3. You're better to go for the olive oil, which we can take a little bit from that Mediterranean diet. So using olive oil in cooking, as long as it doesn't go above about 190 degrees, will be absolutely fine. And the way that I like to use olive oil is, yes, in cooking, but even better, put a drizzle on your salads, a drizzle of your steamed vegetables. Then you're getting some of the monounsaturated fats that help support healthy cholesterol. It's not rich in omega-6. It's not going to offload that balance, but you're getting the monounsaturated fats that can really help cardiovascular health. We have a lot to say on omegas, but it's important just in relation to the balance between the two. Keep hydrated. Remember that you're moving into retirement and you want to really optimize your energy and how well you feel. And being in a routine at work where you've got your regular breaks, maybe mid-morning, maybe lunch, maybe the afternoon, and then when you finish work, can be something to sort of structure your day. When we have less structure in our day, and you might find this over weekends even, perhaps you don't drink enough water. Perhaps you don't drink as much water on the days that you're not sitting at your desk than compared to the days that you are at home. So sometimes you need prompts here. So getting into that habit of having a glass of water before your breakfast, remember, maybe even before that morning walk. So get up, glass of water, get out for your walk, have breakfast. Aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. Keep a bottle in the fridge that you bring out and set on the table at meal times. When you're out and about during the day, take a water bottle with you. Get into the habit of every time you put the kettle on, drink some water. Fill your mug with half a cup or half a mug of water and drink that as you wait for the kettle to boil. This will help to keep your energy going, but also it means that you've got better digestion because you're maybe bringing in more fiber, and that soluble fiber in particular needs water. It's going to help with things like kidney function. It's going to help with things like your concentration and your focus. So make sure that you are keeping really well hydrated. Also, it can be, as we get older as well, it can be off-putting to drink more water because it might mean that you're waking up in the middle of the night to have a pee. So drink it earlier in the day. Don't drink it all in one go and get into the habit of just sipping throughout the day. And that also means that it's going to be much better used by your body as well. So slow, steady, sustained hydration throughout the day is always going to be much better. In retirement, and I know this with lots of my clients, especially at the early days of retirement, it can feel like every day is a weekend, every day is a holiday. And with that, it is very easy to slip into the routine of a glass of wine or a beer with every evening meal. Just be careful around your alcohol units. And again, this is where bringing structure, bringing routine, and bringing rhythm and regular habits is going to help. So, of course, I know that on that one of those diagrams, the Mediterranean diet said about red wine. But really, what are the benefits of red wine? Would we be better to have more red-coloured fruits and vegetables in our diet? Probably. There is something in red wine called resveratrol, which is an antioxidant, but perhaps things like a glass of pomegranate juice or something like pomegranate juice is really good for cardiovascular health and the heart. Maybe something if you can drink it and if you like it, like beetroot juice to help with things like nitric oxide and circulation to your muscles, for example, would be much more beneficial. So kombucha is a really great idea here because that's going to support your gut microbiome. Maybe things like sparkling water with ice and a slice. look out for low or no alcohol alternatives. There's brilliant botanicals around. The two that I really like are, there's a brand called Mother Root, which is gorgeous. It's like a ginger drink that's a nice alternative to something like a gin and tonic. And there's another brand called Botivo, which is a bitter, and bitters are really lovely before a meal to help support digestion. So let's just think about what you could have in your drinks cupboard as an alternative to alcohol that's going to give you health benefits. Plan your meals. So think about structure here, but also remember that in retirement, loads of things are changing, including your food budget. So perhaps planning around what you're going to eat and when you're going to eat will mean that you're not overbuying and buying things that you're not going to use because you're so busy being out and about and doing all those things that you really wanted to do when you were working. So get planning. Work out what you're going to eat over 2 or 3 days. And it means then that you can make something that will do you a couple of lunches or a couple of dinners. Maybe make something like overnight oats for breakfast that will do you 2 days in a row, for example. Maybe make a tomato-based sauce that you can put into the freezer and have as the base with your pasta dishes or your bolognese or your curries or your chilies, for example. But planning just means that you're making best use of your ingredients and that you know that you're ticking all those boxes in relation to the protein, the omega-3 fats, getting at least 5 a day, getting more different types of plants on your plate, getting those healthy fats and all the things that we've just talked about. But the planning can also, like we said, really create structure. And I think this is one of the great things about having that regularity of meal times. It might be that some days you are, and this will, it'll change as time goes on, but it could be that you are doing classes every single day, or that you're maybe looking after grandchildren in the afternoon, or maybe that you have got some sort of regular routine to keep that structure. Just make sure that you're fueling yourself properly throughout the day. Make sure that you're not skipping those meals. Keep breakfast around the same time, lunch around the same time, dinner around the same time, as much as you can. And eat enough. Very often it can be, especially when there's a change in our routine, it can be tempting just to cut back or skip meals and just go with it, go with the flow. And then it means that we're grabbing things that are not necessarily going to fuel us or support our health particularly well. So keeping that structure in the routine is super important. There's also plenty of ways that you can think about your food budget and helping it to go further. So eating well for less. Think about those one-pot wonders, those meals that you can cook once, eat twice. Looking at new recipes, looking at different ways to create variety on your plate. Have a look at the frozen food section, because there's so many different things in there now. So things like, could you have stuff like frozen herbs in your freezer? Perhaps things like your vegetables that you can steam, stir fry or roast, just for a quick and easy option. Could you have things like some frozen fish in the freezer or frozen prawns for a quick and easy stir fry? Could you make your own curry sauce and put it into containers that are handy to have in the freezer? All of these things are going to make your food budget go that little bit further. But one of the biggest things is planning. It means that you're not throwing out food, that you're not wasting food, and therefore that you're not wasting money. You're helping your budget go a little further. So let's just have a little think about, got about 5 minutes left, so I just want to have a little think about some ideas for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Remember, we're shaking things up. So excuse me, I want to incorporate, for each of these, I've incorporated the ideas that we started with: the Mediterranean diet, the Nordic diet, and the plant-based diet. So protein porridge can simply mean that you've got some milled flaxseed and some hemp seed in there. But maybe, remember that as we get older, we do have an increased need for protein. Maybe you get yourself a really good quality protein powder and just add a spoonful of that into your porridge or your overnight oats. It can be a really great way to optimize your protein. With berries, fresh or frozen, I would suggest using frozen because they just use what you need and there's no waste. Eggs are amazing for your brain, neurotransmitters, and cell function. So if you want to get the most out of the years ahead, eat more eggs. They contain an ingredient called choline, which it's estimated that around 80 to 90% of the population are low in, because the best sources of choline are eggs. You would need to eat about 5 eggs a day to get the recommended intake, but they're eggs and liver. So if you like liver, get it into your diet. It's one of those old-fashioned foods that we don't really eat very much of these days. So eggs, maybe something like a sourdough or a wheaten bread, for example, would be really good, or a rye bread. So think about that Nordic diet. Rye bread would be beautiful to bring in here because it's really low glycemic index, slow release. Mushrooms, remember that was part of the vegetarian diet here. The mushrooms are giving you, if you set them on the windowsill, will give you more vitamin D, which we need for healthy bones and immune system. Spinach and maybe some sauerkraut. Remember what it looked at with the healthy aging and those fermented foods and the good bacteria in our gut. Perhaps you have something like live Greek yogurt, again for the fermented bacteria, low sugar granola, so keep an eye, start looking at sugar and labels, chia seeds and berries, or perhaps something like overnight oats with chia seeds in. Lunches could be your super seasonal salad. So this is an opportunity to look at different ways of making lunches. So it might be that you have got a favorite chef, Jamie Oliver, Ottolenghi, whoever it might be. Spend a little time just exploring and getting excited about food, bringing the joy back onto your plate. Get some tinned fish to get those oily fish in there. Do that a couple of times a week for lunch, 3 times a week for lunch, and then you've ticked that box for those beautiful omega-3. Put a drizzle of olive oil in there too. If you want a quick picky lunch or a snacky lunch, things like vegetable crudités with a whole variety of colour, could be celery, carrot, red peppers. You might have some olives in there too for that Mediterranean twist, maybe with some hummus, sauerkraut for those good bacteria and that little Nordic twist. Cheese, nuts, and oat cakes. The cheese that gives us some of the best beneficial bacteria is Roquefort, or those blue cheeses. So if you like that, get it in. Or a veg-packed frittata with salad. I really like to make like a baked frittata. So it's a great way to use up veggies that you need to use up on the bottom of the fridge. So any vegetables you've got, maybe some herbs. Again, it could be dried, mixed herbs in there. Cook the vegetables off. You could put a little bit of bacon in there if you wanted as well. Cook your veggies off in a little bit of olive oil. Whisk up 6 eggs with some herbs and put it all into a quiche dish. Put the vegetables into a quiche dish, pour the egg mixture over the top, bit of cheese on top, and bake that in the oven for about 30 minutes. And that will give you enough for about 4 portions over a couple of days, maybe, or more. And that's really handy. You can do the same thing in a muffin tin. Or bean or lentil-based soups with oatcakes, hummus, or cheese. So with each of these, we're bringing in the Nordic, the Mediterranean, and the plant-based diet ideas. Make your snacks count. So especially if you're out, you're probably going to end up busier in retirement than you are during your working life. So have things that are handy, quick, and easy. So it might be that you stick into your bag or into the glove box in your car, things like a little bag of nuts, or take a bit of fruit out with you. Make sure that you're fueling yourself properly. It probably, if you're having more protein in your plate, you probably will not need the snack so much, but adding in a snack is a good opportunity to add extra nutrition. Don't get into the habit of, every couple of hours you're having a cup of tea and another biscuit. So think about those snacks and think about what you're putting into your trolley that's going to make sure that you've got something on hand, but that's going to give you extra nutrition. Dinner, those one-pot wonders, things like your chickpea curry with brown rice, your chicken or chicken or fish with roasted veg and sweet potato, or things like your spaghetti bolognese, your chili, for example. So this time of life is an amazing opportunity for a fresh start, for a change in rhythm and routine, and to plan ahead, to think about what you want to get out of retirement, and to use your nutrition to your advantage. So I'm just going to come out of this and come back in, and I'm hoping we've got some questions in the Q&A. So let me see.
Yeah, so thank you
Kath.
so much, James. That's so interesting as always. I'm beginning to feel a bit peckish, actually.
Good.
All the talk about food. So yeah, so there's been quite a lot of questions about fish, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's look at the ones about fish. Actually, I'm just going to interrupt and say I've sent out the handout to some people during Jane's presentation. Obviously, now I'm speaking, I will do it at the end, but my email, in case you haven't seen it, it's kath.cheer, kath.cheer, cfcs.org.uk. And if you can send me an email, for the couple of people that sent me a message on the chat, I don't actually have access to your email address that way. So please email me directly. Okay, so let's get back to the fish. So first one, recommendation of having oily fish 2 to 3 times a week. How does that relate to sustainable fishing and protecting wild fish numbers?
Yeah, this is a really, really important question, and thank you for bringing that up. I should have mentioned that, and I normally do. When you are buying your oily fish, I would always say go as low down the food chain as you can, and look for the MSC logo on your tinned fish or your frozen fish, and that means that you're buying fish from a sustainable source. It's really important. So anchovies and sardines are better, and they do tend to have that MSC logo on there, but just make sure that you are getting one from a sustainable source. Yes, thank you for that question. I'm sorry I didn't mention it.
And there's somebody actually has put a comment to that in the chat about the Good Fish Guide. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Yes,
Jane?
so I do. So I'm gonna actually, this is the MSC stands for the Marine Stewardship. Let me share this. Marine Stewardship Council, and they have got their website, which gives you a list of
for you.
working. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gives you a list of the most sustainable fish. So that's definitely worth checking. But also, I looked at this, but I don't know. You'll often see, I can't see it on here, but you'll often see on your fish when you buy it a little blue, like a little blue logo that says MSC approved, and that stands for Marine Conservation Society approved. So it's important that we are looking out for that. So thank you for sharing that site.
Yeah. Okay, so is smoked fish as good as tinned or frozen?
Yeah, so your smoked fish is okay, but remember it's going to be really high in salt, and you want to make sure that you're predominantly going for the unsmoked, because if too many smoked foods can irritate the esophagus. So occasionally the smoked fish will be okay, but it is better going for the plain one.
That's really interesting. No, I've never heard that at all before. Another fish question. Would tinned tuna that comes in olive oil count as an oily fish?
So tuna is not as oily as the other ones that I mentioned. So the sardines, anchovies, mackerel, herring, trout, and salmon. So I would tend to go for those over tinned tuna, and it's recommended that we don't have tuna more than twice a week. The same thing also, just make sure that your tuna is from a sustainable source as well.
I think that's the fish questions.
That's good.
Let's have a look at some others. Somebody asked about what about omega-9?
Yeah. So omega-9 is, sometimes you see supplements with omega-3, 6, and 9. And the essential oils, the essential fats, are omega-3 and omega-6. What that actually means is that we have to get those through our diet. We can't get them through, we can't make them. Whereas omega-9 is not an essential fat. So it can be beneficial, but it's not an essential fat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so got another one here about there are lots of reports online about pesticide residue risks associated with different types of beans. Do you have any recommendations for sourcing safer options?
Okay, I'm wondering what beans you're thinking of there, and if it's soya, because soya can be, it's one of the biggest crops in the world. And if you're concerned around the pesticide residue, not just in beans, but in, and I don't want to say this to be scaremongering, but in all plant foods, the only way that you can really reduce your exposure to these pesticide residues is to go organic, which can be more expensive. There are ways of doing it cheaper. So, for example, having more of that plant-based diet, but looking out for, again, looking at the gold standard for organic food is the Soil Association. But that is the only way that you can guarantee that you're getting food that has no pesticide residue.
Gosh, it's tricky, isn't it? You're kind of balancing your budget
It's balancing.
and
Yes,
health.
and I think that's important as well, Kath, that it's balancing a budget, but it's also balancing not feeling that you can't eat non-organic produce because you're still getting so many nutrients from that. And it's just being what is right for one person will not be right for another. So I would never say to anybody, well, if you're not eating organic carrots, don't eat carrots. Absolutely not. You know, just think about what is right for you. And it may be for some people that they want to go a completely organic diet, and for others that's out of the question. So it's what works for you as an individual, I think.
Thank you for that. And I've got another question here, which is about are the brands for the non-alcoholic drinks, are they in your handout?
No, but let me just I'll show you the ones that we'll just go into this. It's not on Sainsbury's. I'll show you. So the first one is called Mother Root. It's so nice. Now, these are around the same price. You know, they're not cheap, so they are using them at like your little treat, your Friday night treat. So Mother Root, absolutely lovely. And then the other one is this Botivo. That's the bitter one I was telling you about. But you can see even just from putting Mother Root into the search engine there that there's lots of these really good non-alcoholic alternatives. This stuff is also good. This Remedio infusion. It's like almost like a pulp, like a ginger and turmeric thing that you put sparkling water in. Too. There's lots and lots and lots of research, and you know, maybe one of the things that I did actually was a friend of mine. We were researching the best non-alcoholic alternative to gin and tonic. So she bought a bottle of something, and I bought a bottle of something. We did a bit of a taste test. So that's also quite a good idea and quite a fun way of doing it.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I think that whole kind of broadening out of non-alcoholic drinks to kind of to have so much more variety now can make it feel so much more like a treat than just having fizzy water
Yeah, it's
or
so much
something.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I listened to so I've got a question now. I've listened to the thing this morning on the radio about that we had less healthy life. I think it'd gone down a couple of years, hadn't it? But also the other thing I was interested in, I've read as well that although women have tend to live longer, they have less healthy years, or they have more time unhealthy. I just wondered about that as well.
Yeah, I think there can be lots of factors, and really
Mm.
bringing it back to an individual
Yeah.
level. So the things that really support healthy years are stress management is a really big part of it, I think. And for many people, we're juggling so much. So it might be that you are caring for parents and maybe children, grandchildren. So really think about how you look after yourself. So definitely managing stress, looking at the time that we spend outside, looking at the type of exercise that we do, and not always thinking about the cardio side of things, but also thinking about your strength side of things as well, lifting heavy things like your heavy shopping, you know, like walking to the shop with a little backpack is going to be really beneficial for healthy muscles and joints and bones. But also for many women, especially from menopause, because estrogen is so protective for our heart, for our bones and muscles and our brain. And when our estrogen levels decline, that can be a real changing point for many women. So just think about what is appropriate for you, and you know, where are the things, thinking about how you can optimize your own individual health as much as possible. And yes, diet is a really important part of it, but you might have been listening to this session going, tick, 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 I'm doing all of that. So where else? It might be that more of your focus might be on stress management or on being outdoors or maybe on your movement and your exercise.
Thank you, Jane. I'm just going to check if we've got any more questions. Let me just have a quick look. No, I think that's it. So I think it's quite good timing, really. So thank you, Jane, so much for your time this morning. Definitely food for thought for all of us, I think. And just a reminder to participants, thank you so much for joining this morning. There are many more sessions from Jane coming up, so do keep an eye on the website for that. And just as a reminder again, my email kath.cheer@cfcs.org.uk. You email me, I can send you the handout for this session. So yeah, thanks very much indeed, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you, Kath. Thanks, everyone. Bye.